your pre-Thanksgiving Eve. And to start off today, guys, we're going to talk about a couple topics. Obviously, the first one being the Stephen A. Smith, LeBron has never been feared. Trying to say that like Michael Jordan was feared around the league and no one would ever touch him, but we all know that's full of crap. I know a lot of people like Kwame Brown talked about it. I know a lot of people in the media. I know JJ Redick stood up. I'm not the biggest JJ Redick fan, but in terms of the guy that he was at Duke, he kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But again, I think he was spot on with what he said. And so, I kind of wanted to talk about this as well, because I think like looking at this whole thing, it frustrates me. And then of course we're going to talk about Chet Holmgren and Paulo Banchero, Duke versus Gonzaga on Friday. We're going to just do a little preview, look at Banchero's game versus Citadel, and look at Chet Holmgren versus UCLA. And again, stats, they're oohs and ahs, but there's a lot of things that these guys do that doesn't really show up on the box score sometimes. So without further ado, let us get right into the story. So our first story of the day, of course, is going to be the Stephen A. Smith story. And I kind of want to play this video first for everybody watching now or watching the pre-recorded video that I'm going to probably segment in. This is going to be the first video that we're going to talk about. Again, Stephen A. Smith on Isaiah Stewart, and this is what's going to be going on. So let's listen in on what Stephen A. had to say.
In all the years that I've covered the league, we talk about the Jordans of the world, the Kobes of the world, and people like that. And you saw LeBron when he first came into the league. You saw when they went to the finals. You saw when they was feigning, taking pictures and playing around and being jovial and all of that other stuff. LeBron James is too phenomenal and too great not to be incredibly respected. But in my estimation, from the people that I've spoken to covering the league, he's never been feared. LeBron is not somebody that instills fear in you. Of course, you got a game plan for him, and you know that his Herculean talents and what have you, and what he brings to the table, he's impossible to stop. He's one of the top 2-3 players in the history of basketball. You know all of those things. But a lot of times when we think about MJ, for example, and obviously he's the one person that draws those comparisons, what ultimately comes up short is the level of fear that was instilled in you. You didn't mess with MJ. You didn't come at MJ like that. You didn't do stuff like that. People, and I'm not talking about Isaiah Stewart, I'm just talking about period in terms of opponents and how they come at you. You believe that you wondered what you was going to do about this. With LeBron, you believe you can take him. You believe he can be had, whether it's because of the teammates around him, the system he's playing in, the people that, whatever skill set you bring to the table, et cetera, you just view him differently. And throughout the years in covering the league, those are all the things that I've consistently heard. Now, obviously, he would refute that. There's players that would refute that who have been supportive of him. Rich Paul and Maverick Carter definitely would refute that because I've spoken to them about it in the past. But again, he is profoundly respected. This is not an issue about respect for LeBron. I'm talking fear factor. Fear factor. That's just not something that has ever been associated with him.
All right, so you heard the video, you heard what Stephen A. had to say. Of course, Stephen A.'s classic line is my sources, right? So, the reason why I kind of titled this is like, this is laughable, this is clownish. Like, the reason why I kind of go at Stephen A. Smith sometimes for this stuff is because I feel like some of the stories that he kind of says are sources, I can't believe them. Like, he's wrong way too many times for me to like know that his source is even credible at this point. And to me, that's what frustrates me the most, because we've seen videos of players and many other people around the league go at Michael Jordan back in the 90s. Just because it wasn't publicized as much doesn't mean that stuff didn't happen. And I feel like looking at this whole situation from a, kind of a glass outside of the NBA realm, obviously I'm not in there with the players. I'm not in there with the coaching staff. One day I hope to be as a coaching staff, but besides the point of that, my frustration kind of goes with this whole thing is that, like, I don't think Stephen A. Smith is in the right to talk about guys that are in this sort of situation. I just feel like the way that he's kind of going at it, to me, what I would find frustrating about it is just the fact that, like, I think he's full of it. Like, I don't think he's really accurate. I don't really think he is someone that's like really, really into it as much as, like, I guess what I'm trying to say, without kind of like flubbing up my words, which is currently what I'm doing right now. I really don't think Stephen A. Smith has accurate reporting. I think that this is more of an opinion piece Because if you really look at it back in the day, Michael Jordan was someone that a lot of people didn't fear. They went at him. Like I remember those photos of like the bad boy Pistons going at Michael Jordan. It wasn't like Michael Jordan was like feared. He wasn't like for obviously I'm a religious man, but a god, right? A godlike figure. And to me, like when I look at that, I don't think that was accurate at all. Like I know that the Last Dance and all these interviews and documentaries about Michael Jordan make it seem like he was this grand old, like, bigger than life type of character. But really, everyone went at him just as much as LeBron James did. It's kind of funny because we talk about like how, it's like, oh, LeBron James isn't respected. And it's kind of like the same disrespect that I feel like LeBron James gets each and every year. You can criticize LeBron James about a lot of things. But I feel like this is just not one of them. Like this is to me is like a situation where again it goes back to the arguments that a lot of people made in the past. Oh, LeBron went to the East; it was a lot easier. And you're seeing all those stuff. The first player, once he went to the Miami Heat, like people were burning his jerseys. All this other crazy stuff that was going on around the league. It's funny that we kind of forget about that, and it just seems like LeBron James just gets the blunt of the force when it comes to that type of critique, that type of rhetoric, and I just don't think that that's fair at all for a guy like LeBron James, who we know is not getting respected. Like I feel like he's not. I feel like he doesn't get enough respect in the media. Like the media, whether it's Stephen A. Smith or whether it's Skip Bayless, those guys will continuously always go after LeBron James for whatever reason. Like it just seems like there's an agenda. And it just seems like they've made a career. I think Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless for sure has made a career off LeBron James. Whereas Stephen A. Smith, I feel like, made a career off of making fun of like guys like Kwame Brown and who else did he make fun of? He makes fun of a lot of the athletes. It's kind of interesting to me that he doesn't really make fun of the white athletes as much, which is it kind of says a lot to me. Obviously. We can go in a lot of different directions with that, but I agree with Kwame Brown on that aspect of it. It's like, I don't see any criticism for like Tim Tebow, like the way that, or, a Tim Tebow or, a John, maybe Johnny Manziel is a bad example. Like I think like a Baker Mayfield or any of these other athletes, like there's no catchphrases that you can signify with those guys. Whereas like, Kwame Brown, it's he's a bust, a bona fide scrub, all this other stuff like that Stephen A. Smith did, and what I kind of find frustrating about that, again, I just don't feel like Stephen A. like is the type of guy that you can be like, yeah, I kind of respect his reporting, I can respect what he does as an analyst or someone that is in the media. It just seems like his sources are always bunk. They're funk, and they're just like, and they're full of gunk. Like, and it's just to me when I see the sources that the quote unquote sources that Stephen A. Smith continuously and harmoniously says each and every time, I just don't know if I can believe that Stephen A. Smith, is telling the truth. And it's like these new, it's like the new age media. It's like no one's really accurately and reporting things the right way. Whenever I see someone familiar with the source, or if I see Stephen A. Smith sources, I always have a cause for pause when it comes to any reporting, because it's like, I'm not saying you got to reveal your sources, but you need to use better wording or kind of phrase it. And again, the reason why I titled this narrative is because I feel like Stephen A. Smith is trying to make a narrative about this whole situation to get undisputed, or so I guess he's on First Take, undisputed for Skip Bayless and First Take for Stephen A. Smith. I feel like they're trying to again kind of form this narrative that LeBron James isn't again better than Michael Jordan. It seems like both these companies, whether it's Fox or ESPN, continuously do the exact same thing each and every time that it comes to a story. No, I did not talk about him yet, Sean. We're actually going to talk about him next. I just kind of want to talk about this story first because I want to clown on Stephen A. Smith. But again, going back to it, it just seems like these guys are trying to form a narrative, create a story, and I get frustrated with that as someone who wants accurate reporting, as someone that wants to know the facts. I just feel like there's a lot of narrative spinning from Stephen A. Smith and from Skip Bayless. And I know, Sean, you have dealt with this before, whether it comes to the Seahawks or, whatever athlete that we like. I just feel like you always get that sort of situation when it comes to, I would say, this whole like LeBron James thing. And it's like these guys just can't talk about anybody else besides the Dallas Cowboys, LeBron James, and all these other guys And the reason why is because they're always trying to find a narrative to find, right? It's a 24-hour news cycle type of entertainment, or, quote unquote entertainment. How entertaining is it talking about the same person over and over again? And it's kind of the reason why it's just kind of one of those things that I just find frustrating as someone who wants to like have good, accurate reporting. I'm not going to go to Stephen A. Smith for like sources or reliable intel. Like, I'm going to go to Shams. I'm going to go to Hayes, I believe from Yahoo. I can't remember his name. Woj, somewhat Woj. I think Shams is a little bit better. I'm Team Sham. I'm part of the Sham Wows instead of the Woj moms. But again, it's just one of those things. You look at it, and again, these guys on these news talk shows obviously trying to form a narrative, try to create stuff that is just going to be so crappy. And Sean, I don't know if you're still here with me, or if you're going to wait for the Apollo and chat talk yet. But I think as someone who who we talk with on the daily with you and my friends, I just think we kind of feel the same way about it, when it comes to guys like Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless. And I also wanted to read this part of the story too when it comes to this Isaiah Stewart sort of situation. So here it says, I am told LeBron James did try to track down Isaiah Stewart's phone number post-game to apologize to Stewart again to let him know it was an inadvertent hit to the face. And again, I think it was, at the end of the day, it wasn't like LeBron James was maliciously trying to, find his face and just absolutely like deck him with the elbow. I think that's just part of basketball. Again, I'm not sure how, they both, I think Isaiah Stewart's like 6'10", 6'11". Meanwhile, LeBron James is like 6'9". I'm not sure how that happens with the inverted elbow to the face, but it happened. And that's just the whole situation. Again, none of these guys are really going to fight each other. This isn't the 90s. This isn't the 80s anymore, where people are actually front to front, like actually going to, whack elbows and like punch people in the face. Like, I remember those Celtics, like Lakers rivalries where guys would actually like literally punch each other. And that to me was like, oh shoot, and I think the NBA wants to like, obviously the NBA wants to get rid of it. They obviously suspended LeBron James, and they suspended Isaiah Stewart for longer because they don't want that type of stuff in the game anymore. Like, no one wants to see that. As much as like these guys want to act tough, and I know you got to protect like your quote unquote manhood on this stuff, I just don't think that it is, the right. I don't think it's right. I think like at the end of the day, you can use your words, you can kind of talk to each other. I know it's like heat of the moment. You got elbow in the face, you're pissed. I get that, but at the same time, you do have the ability to kind of talk it out. And I hope LeBron James actually went and talked to him as a man instead of doing the texting thing. Like, I know that texting is like, yo, man, I'm sorry I hit you in the face. It's easier to text and tell someone that you're sorry there than it is to do it face to face. So I hope that LeBron James did it face to face, because I just think that's a lot better than doing it in a way where it's like, oh, I'm going to text you and do that stuff. But kind of going back again to the Stephen A. Smith part, again, I just don't trust anything that Stephen A. Smith says. It's one of those things where I think he is a proverbial narrative-driven person who continuously tries to create this like false narrative and tries to frame the stories in a way where LeBron James is the bad guy, or whatever athlete he doesn't like, the Cowboys for an example. I mean, I know the Cowboys are, it's funny to make fun of them, right? 90s, they haven't won since the 90s. It's funny. But again, I still think that Stephen A. Smith goes a little too far with guys like LeBron James, guys like Kwame Brown, and kind of tries to form this whole narrative and story where I just don't think that it's right. And again, with guys like Cuff the Legend, like I trust Cuffs more than I trust Stephen A. Smith. I know a lot of people don't know about Cuffs the Legend. He actually has a podcast, trying to shout him out. Want to give him a shout out because I think he's actually really good and an intelligent man, and I love listening to his podcast. It's on Spotify, Apple Music, all that stuff. He's not paying me to do this promo, but I will shout him out because I do love listening to him. I love his content. I think he's a very knowledgeable man, and you can see it in the way that he talks about the game. Whereas like Stephen A. Smith, what does Stephen A. Smith know? Like, yeah, he was he played for Temple, I think, or something like that, or some sort of smaller college. I mean, it doesn't really matter, right? It doesn't matter where you play. It's not about like, oh, he played here, LeBron James plays in the NBA. Who's the real winner? It's more so like, I think that there is just like narratives that Stephen A. Smith, and I just feel like he's kind of a con man when it comes to that stuff. And Stephen and Skip Bayless is the same way. Like as much as I enjoy Undisputed with Shannon Sharp, I think Shannon Sharp keeps it 100. I still feel the same way when it comes to a guy like Stephen A. Smith, where it's just like I don't know if I can trust anything that you say for your sources. Like, again, these shows are more opinion pieces, but it's funny to me that ESPN still tries to treat Stephen A. Smith as a beat writer, a reporter, an analyst. Like, he may have started out that way, but now we all know what he is. He's an opinion guy. He's going to say his opinion, and this is an opinion piece, in my opinion, where he tries to say that Stephen A. Smith says that he's never been feared. Like, to me, like when I see Stephen A. Smith kind of do that whole scenario, when I see him do this narrative-driven thing, I can't believe him. And again, it's just one of those things. I look at it and I hope that we can get some clarity, from players to kind of call out the BS that Stephen A. Smith seems to continuously spew out of his mouth. And, I think that it's a fair assessment to say, because I'm sure these players are tired. Again, the thing is like, if you go after Stephen A. Smith as a player, it's like, oh, well, why are you going after a little old reporter? It doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, like, I'm going, I don't blame players that they went after him, because I feel like he's full of it. Like, I think Stephen A. Smith does. I don't think anybody messes with him like I think everyone thinks he does. I don't think anybody messes with him. Like, it's that simple when it comes to Stephen A. Smith. I just don't see a guy after a game going like, oh, Stephen A. Smith, what's up, man? Let's talk. Like, they're going to be cordial. They're going to be friendly. Like, JJ Redick obviously shut him down with the way that he talked about the whole situation. We can talk about, what he said. And it's just like, people respect the man. Like, and they fear him. Like, there's a reason why he went to like 9 straight finals. Stephen A. Smith gonna ban JJ from First Take after that call out. Hey man, it's gonna be the same thing that I saw that Jalen Rose, man. Jalen Rose never made it back to First Take after that Skip Bayless incident, man. Again, I think JJ Redick had the right to call him out. He's a player. Like, who's gonna be a guy that you trust more? The guy that's played in the league with LeBron James for all these years, or do you think it's gonna be Stephen A. Smith, who hasn't probably been in a locker room or media thing? He only goes like once a year, and that's the NBA Finals. He doesn't go every night to like the Lakers games and being like, "Oh, LeBron, blah 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 blah." No, he does this every time after the finals. Like, that's the only time I ever see him there. And then, he's the guy that like lurks around. Like, he's gonna be the reporter that kind of lurks around, looking down over here. All the players are kind of over there. He's just looking out. He's like, okay, what's going on over here? And he's gonna like look, and then he's gonna maybe find like the ball boy or something like that. Hey man, what's going on over there? And the ball boy's gonna be like, oh, they're just doing this, this, and this. And then Stephen A. Smith is gonna go on ESPN. After the game, usually they do like a reporting thing with like Michael Wilbon and all that. And they're going to be like, well, according to my sources or what I'm seeing, from the locker room, the team talk, blah, 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 blah. Where I feel like, Stephen A. Smith didn't ask like a player, didn't ask a coach. I feel like he's just asking the ball boys and the security. Like, that's what I feel like it is. I don't feel like he's actually like reporting anything newsworthy. Again, I feel like everything that comes out of Stephen A. Smith's mouth is now opinion and never fact. And that's just the reality of Stephen A. Smith in 2021. Like, he's, you paid him $12 million to be a personality for ESPN. You didn't pay him $12 million to report, right? You can get anybody to do that reporting. Unfortunately, it's a very like boring job, right? Unless you're Shams, who breaking news on Twitter. Like, that's the only way that you're gonna do it. And Stephen A. Smith doesn't have that. Like, he's not he's not breaking stories. He's literally just getting things from Wojnarowski. He's getting things from Shams, and then reporting it, and then giving his opinion. Whereas, like, again, Shams and Woj are reporting the facts. And ESPN already pays Woj, so it's like, Stephen A., we're going to pay you this $12 million a year to do the Stephen A. Smith World, show. That's obviously garbage. No one wants to pay for ESPN Plus. ESPN Plus, not to like kind of rag on ESPN a lot, but I just don't think ESPN Plus is really that worth it unless like you follow the smaller colleges and kind of want to watch their games. Like, that's the only way that I ever see ESPN Plus being worth it. And because they paid Stephen A. Smith $12 million now to like do something with that sort of money and do something with that, trying to think of the right word, like do something with it. I just don't think that a lot of people are really falling for it. And then, Stephen A. Smith has to make outlandish remarks on his show. And that's where I feel like ESPN is at as a network right now. You have your factual reporting with Wojnarowski, you have him on the jump and all that stuff. And then you have like the first takes, the Stephen A. World, and all these other places to kind of do your classic like opinion piece where they're just like, oh well, LeBron James is weak, and Michael Jordan would never do this or that. And basically, it's just a rinse and repeat cycle with those guys. And again, we could go on and on. I could make another like 40 minutes about Stephen A. Smith just making up some random crap that he always does. But again, let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys make of this whole situation with Stephen A. Smith basically lying? And again, this is more so a Stephen A. Smith story than it really is a LeBron James versus Isaiah Stewart story. Again, he's bleeding. I understand he's going to be frustrated. Tensions will flare. I'm not dumb and naive to think like, oh, Isaiah Stewart should have calmed down. But at the same time, don't make it seem like this is a narrative like, the guy, like, it's like the victim thing, right? It's like, oh, it's really dumb to me with the way that this is going. Like, Isaiah Stewart was the one that got elbowed in the face. Yet this is a LeBron James story. I mean, it is. He's involved, obviously, but it's not about like, oh, should Isaiah Stewart, was it right for Isaiah Stewart to go after him? Was it, all this stuff? It's just like, this proves that LeBron James isn't feared, and it's like, I'm pretty sure he was feared. There's a reason why super teams had to be formed. There's a reason why there's a reason why Draymond Green, Steph Curry, and Klay Thompson cried to Kevin Durant to come to Golden State and win 2 titles. If that's not being feared, I don't know what is. To team up with other superstars to finally form that super team and win some Mickey Mouse championships. Obviously, I'm joking with the Mickey Mouse championships. But again, kind of like if we're going with the narrative, right? It's like, it's funny to me that we'll value those rings more than anything else. But we'll see what happens, man. Again, like I said, let me know in the comment section down below. What do you guys make of the Stephen A. Smith story where he's just absolutely full of it and not telling the whole truth as it comes and pertains to, what's really going on around the league? Let me know in the comment section down below.